right, and you'll find Cheekwood. See you tomorrow. Here's CBS.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. President Reagan today refused to say whether or not he believes in astrology. It happened at a news conference. There was fresh presidential backing for Ed Meese, no comment on possibly letting Panama's Noriega off on drug-running charges, and new comment on whether he thinks his fate is in the stars. President Reagan was trying to position himself for the Moscow summit this afternoon by attempting to dispel recent depictions by some of his own former top aides that he is uninvolved, uncaring, and into astrology. White House correspondent Bill Plant watched and listened as Mr. Reagan talked of horoscopes and other things.
President Reagan, beset by problems and by charges that he is disengaged from his own presidency, today held an impromptu news conference, knowing he'd be challenged to defend both his embattled Attorney General and his troubled Panama policy. Mr. Reagan refused to talk about his reported offer to drop drug indictments against Panama's leader Manuel Noriega, insisting that negotiations to get rid of Noriega are still underway.
What we're interested in seeing is a restoration of democracy in Panama. And I can only tell you that we're not going to just whitewash anyone.
Mr. Reagan's refusal to back away from a possible deal came just hours after Republican Minority Leader Bob Dole won an overwhelming Senate vote urging the president not to drop the indictments.
This body doesn't believe we ought to dismiss criminal proceedings against a man who's been trafficking in drugs, making millions and millions of dollars, spreading misery across America.
As for Attorney General Meese, Mr. Reagan would give no ground, despite the fact that even conservatives and a conservative newspaper, the Washington Times, are now calling for Meese's resignation.
No, I have complete confidence in him. And I know because there have been a great many allegations made, but nothing has been proven, and I've seen no evidence of any wrongdoing on his part of the kind that is inferred in the allegations that are being kicked around it.
Mr. Reagan said there was, quote, more than meets the eye to yesterday's firing of Meese spokesman Terry Eastland, and he suggested reporters ask the Attorney General to explain. But late today, Meese did little to clear things up.
I had determined that it was time for a change in leadership and that the whole issue is as simple as that.
The president was peppered with questions about whether he or the First Lady used astrology to guide the scheduling of his public appearances. He admitted that Mrs. Reagan did consult an astrologer after the attempt on his life.
After I had been shot, which was quite a traumatic experience for my wife, Nancy it was a trauma that didn't go away easily. And when suddenly things of the same kind, just for a short period there, when I was booked for something of the same kind where the accident occurred, why, she would ask, what does it look like now?
Mr. Reagan denied the stars had anything to do with major events in his life, but he passed up the chance to denounce astrology.
Do you believe in it?
I don't guide my life by it, but I won't answer the question the other way because I don't know enough about it to say, is there something to it or not?
Though Mr. Reagan has held few news conferences in recent years, aides say that this one was strictly his own idea. He wanted to urge ratification of the INF nuclear weapons treaty and so was willing to discuss anything else. Aides hope that by doing so he has considerably lightened the baggage he would otherwise have taken to the summit. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
Has Panama's General Noriega finally cut a deal with President Reagan? A Noriega advisor has told CBS News that a U.S. envoy has wrapped up his work and is now preparing to head back to Washington. This reportedly after Noriega was given Mr. Reagan's latest offer. Juan Vasquez reports on the reaction in Panama.
In the capital today, there were few signs of a nation locked in a political and economic crisis with the United States. Most Panamanians are unaware of the backstage negotiations aimed at ousting General Noriega, and those who are believe the United States has betrayed them by agreeing to allow Noriega's hand-picked president, Manuel Solis Palma, to remain in office.
To allow, for example, Solis Palma to stay until 1989 is completely out of the question. Whatever they do with their indictments in the States, that's their problem.
Sources in Panama insist that Noriega will not relinquish power until the indictments are quashed permanently. Otherwise, they say, Noriega is prepared to remain in Panama and even run for president next year. The offer now being considered by Noriega would require Panama to set a 5-year limit on the term of office of military commanders and to allow free and democratic elections in May of 1989. In return, the U.S. would lift economic sanctions and free $50 million in frozen assets in the United States. Panama has also reportedly proposed removing President Solis Palma if the United States agrees to replace U.S. Ambassador Arthur Davis and his chief deputy. A Noriega cabinet minister says there would still be a long way to go in patching up relations.
And I doubt very much that the U.S. can even think that after all they have done, all they have to do is send a secret envoy and everybody will kiss and make up.
Noriega's soldiers aren't ready to kiss and make up either. Today they showed off weapons seized while uncovering an alleged plot to overthrow the government. The opposition fears that even as Noriega negotiates with the United States, he is setting the stage for yet another crackdown. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Panama City.
In a major surprise for economists, the government today said the U.S. trade deficit for the month of March narrowed down to $9.7 billion. That improvement of almost 30% from February put the trade imbalance at its lowest level in 2 years. These trade figures were brightened by the light of record one-month exports of almost $29 billion. But in today's complicated economic world, an export boom may also mean bust in the same region. CBS News business correspondent Ray Brady explains how.
They're raw logs going from the state forests of the Pacific Northwest to Japan. They're worth billions of dollars, and that helps our trade balance. But, say critics, heavy Japanese buying is hiking up the price of timber for U.S. mills, forcing many of them out of business.
The higher quality log, bigger logs are going to Japan. They're paying probably 3 times what we could afford to pay for the log.
The Japanese can outbid Americans because for them, the low-priced dollar makes the logs cheap. More than $2 billion worth of American logs sailed to the Orient last year alone, much of it to Japan. But the Japanese cut those logs in their own mills. So all over the Northwest, scenes like these, closed mills. They either couldn't compete with Japanese bidders, or they've lost orders to those mills in the Orient. Estimates are 35,000 American mill workers lost their jobs.
It takes a lot more men to process it through the mill than it does to just put it on a boat.
Michael Christensen knows that. He was laid off.
The price of the logs went so high that the mill I worked at shut down and I lost my job.
Congressman Peter DeFazio has introduced a bill that would let states limit the shipment of logs.
We are a colony. I mean, we're just severing the trees and taking them down to the docks and shipping them to Japan. The Japanese mill workers are working and mine aren't.
While jobs are being lost at the mills, some here argue that other jobs are being created in the logging camps, on the docks, and elsewhere. Jobs that are being created by the shipment of logs to Japan.
Some say the U.S. mills caused their own troubles by not learning how to do business with the Japanese.
The future for us lies offshore, but many of our mills really aren't oriented to shipping offshore. They're much more comfortable in the U.S. market.
Well, that's hogwash. I mean, we've got all kinds of mills that are cutting today for international markets and to the Japanese.
So the fight over foreign trade goes on here, but so does the shipment of logs to foreign shores. Ray Brady, CBS News, Tacoma, Washington.
Even in the high-tech world of computer crime, the multi-million-dollar embezzlement plot reported today in Chicago stands out. It centers on the biggest bank between New York and California. Richard Roth is here with the first details of this still developing story.
Dan, the story that's developing is of an attempted robbery of one of the nation's largest banks, not with a gun, but with a computer. First National Bank of Chicago this evening told CBS News it has thwarted an attempt by one of its employees to embezzle $70 million. It's turned the case over to federal law enforcement authorities, and the bank says it does not anticipate any losses. First Chicago is keeping most other details to itself, but banking sources tell CBS News it was a high-tech heist attempt using the international network of computer links through which banks of the world exchange billions of dollars every day. An attempted wire transfer from some First Chicago customers' accounts to accounts here in New York. A bank as big as First Chicago makes debits and credits totaling hundreds of millions every day on a system called CHIPS, a computerized international payment system. And for each transaction, instead of a signature, the bank relies on what's called a test code, a password in effect, to authenticate the order to move money from one account to another. In this case, one of First Chicago's customers, Merrill Lynch, yesterday discovered a discrepancy in its account. Merrill Lynch recovered its money, and with First Chicago also saying it anticipates no loss. The suggestion is it was a robbery attempt that stayed all in the ether. $70 million moving silently, electronically, from bank to bank, but discovered before anyone showed up to pick up the cash. Dan?
Thanks, Richard. We'll be looking for your follow-up. Questions are still being raised tonight in the aftermath of that Kentucky bus crash that claimed 27 lives. Legally drunk at the time, the driver of the truck that hit the bus was described today as an easygoing, good old country boy. The driver of the bus who was killed was remembered as, quote, a real gentleman and a class guy. And the questions, sorrow, and anger persist. Harold Dow has a follow-up on this.
Radcliffe, Kentucky is a town in mourning. Along Dixie Highway, there are signs of sympathy and condolences. Some people here are still in shock, but others are angry. At Hardin High, the youngsters were quiet as they came to school this morning. One student told us they were shocked to learn that the driver's blood alcohol level was 2.5 times the legal limit.
To take 27 lives, what can you do to someone like that?
Of the 27 lives lost, 24 were students from this school district. The bus drivers are now displaying black ribbons, an expression of their sadness and their anger.
I lost many. The children on my bus, and when you go past the homes where the children that have passed away, you want to just cry.
Some families have had all their kids wiped out, you know, so how do you go to them and say, well, now what do you think is fair for this man? You know, he just killed all your kids.
16 of the youngsters who perished came from military families who live on Fort Knox. Among the troops, there was talk of life and death.
If they can kill people, I don't see why they shouldn't be killed themselves.
As officials from the National Transportation Safety Board continue with their investigation, questions are being asked about how safe school buses really are. The Kentucky State Medical Examiner has already concluded that none of the 27 victims killed died from injuries received during the initial crash. It was the gasoline fire that claimed lives.
Each person died from smoke inhalation, all 27. There's no evidence of, in any of the 27 examinations that were performed, of significant physical injury.
Meanwhile, there are reports that the man accused of murdering 27 people has received death threats. Larry Mahoney's condition has now been listed as fair. He has been moved to the prison unit of this hospital and is currently under 24-hour guard. Harold Dow, CBS News, Louisville, Kentucky.
And still ahead on the CBS Evening News, correspondent Frank Courier on whether this farmland will become the nation's largest airport. And 1 year after the attack on the USS Stark, correspondent David Martin reports on the lessons learned.
A 100 times a day I used to hear, Mom, where's the mustard? Or, honey, I can't find the ice cream. But not with our new Whirlpool refrigerator. The shelves slide out so you can reach food way at the back. And with the slide-out baskets in the freezer, nothing gets hidden away.
Oh, by the way, honey, you see my golf clubs?
If they're in there, you'll find them.
We're making your world a little easier. Whirlpool.
Introducing the all-new Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. Four-wheel disc brakes, a multi-port fuel-injected V6 engine, four-wheel independent suspension, and aerodynamic styling even the wind can't resist. In short, the new Cutlass Supreme is not your father's Oldsmobile.
Now
for indigestion, gas. Introducing new Extra Strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new Extra Strength Malox Plus.
How can you help your home sell faster? Protect the major appliances. If your real estate company can't do that, then you're not listed with the right real estate company. Because you're not listed with an ERA broker.
Late-breaking story. CBS News Defense Department correspondent David Martin reports tonight that the Soviets are unable to turn out any more of their SS-24 mobile missiles for the time being. Sometime last week, it has been revealed, the assembly building where fuel is installed in the missiles blew up. The building in Pavlograd was demolished, the only assembly plant for the huge SS-24s. Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres was a visitor at the White House today. Peres said President Reagan told him that at the Moscow summit, he will try to enlist Soviet support for an international Mideast peace conference. With Israeli elections set for the fall, Mr. Reagan's spokesman praised Peres for having what he called, quote, the courage and wisdom to say yes to real peace opportunities. This apparently was aimed at Peres' hardline political rival, Prime Minister Shamir. The level of violence in the Israeli-occupied territories has subsided in recent weeks, but Bob Simon reports the quiet is deceptive.
Asaf Adiv, the Israeli publisher of a left-wing newspaper, was being interviewed by CBS News this afternoon when the cops arrived. The paper had been shut down in February. Its 4 editors had since been arrested. Now they were coming for him.
The people here are policemen. They want me to go with them.
It's part of a general crackdown on the press. 22 reporters have been arrested since the troubles began, a fact which is troubling Israeli liberals.
If Israel would not stay a solid, strong democracy, then it doesn't worth the support of the Western world.
Israel is still trying to beat the Palestinian revolt into submission, and on the face of it, with some success. There are fewer riots these days. Stones have been replaced by silence. With the slightest sign of trouble, the Israelis slap on a curfew and round up the troublemakers. Here's this week's crop, new recruits for new detention camps. More than 5,000 Palestinians are being held in these makeshift centers now, more than a third of them with no charges, no trials. But the Palestinians claim that by closing down their towns, by forcing the uprising underground, the Israelis have only deepened it. That Israeli repression has radicalized all the Palestinians, that you can no longer find a single village anywhere in the occupied territories which has not become part of the rebellion.
It is a sign of civil disobedience that we refuse the occupation, that we have our flag. Our flag is a Palestinian flag, not the Israeli flag.
The Palestinian flag flies today in the remote West Bank village of Kfar Rai. A few months ago, this village hardly knew what that flag was. But then one day, Israeli soldiers killed 3 villagers after a violent demonstration. The next week, in a formal ceremony, Kfar Rai declared its independence from the Israeli occupation.
Do you mean that if the soldiers come back, you will fight them?
Of course, yeah. The people, they are willing for this thing.
Maybe more people will get killed.
Yeah, maybe, but this is a natural thing.
Like all natural things, rebellions have their seasons. Winter was frenzied and violent. Both sides are now settling in for a long summer and a longer struggle. Bob Simon, CBS News, Kfar Rai.
The newest siege of India's Golden Temple appears destined tonight for a bloody climax. There was a furious exchange of gunfire today as Indian commandos seized key positions inside the temple, holiest site of the Sikh faith. About 50 Sikhs want separatism from Hindu India. They are believed making a last stand in the inner courtyard. More than 1,000 people died when Indian troops assaulted the Golden Temple complex 4 years ago.
I tell you, he's gotten goofy.
I like your dad.
Dad? He thinks he's my brother. Last night we were shooting hoops at 10 o'clock.
So?
Marty, this is the same man who never lifted his nose out of a newspaper. Now he listens to Z-Rock on the radio. Whose is this?
The right vitamin nutrition and a balanced diet helps people get more out of life. Some are finding Kellogg's Product 19, 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals.
I just wish he'd act his age, like your dad.
Feel like 19 again.
Painful conditions are a fact of life in a modern hospital. And when it comes to relieving everyday pain, the overwhelming choice of hospitals is Tylenol. Tylenol is clinically proven effective for all kinds of pain. That's a medical fact. And there's another important thing you should know. Hospitals can trust Tylenol not to irritate your stomach. In fact, unlike aspirin or even ibuprofen, Tylenol is so easy on your stomach, most ulcer patients can use it. Tylenol. It's tough on pain, easy on your stomach.
How long does a John Deere last?
How long does a John Deere last? How long does a John Deere last? Well, that's a good question.
I just got dentures, but it hasn't slowed me down.
Start to be the 45, want to hear 45, 45.
Fixodent and forget it. Fixodent helps fix loose spots for a strong hold that lasts longer than any leading cream.
Two, I hear 25, want to hear 25, 25.
Use Fixodent and forget it.
There's a vote in Colorado today that has nothing to do with presidential politics, but it may be critical to the nation's future transportation. At issue is a plan to build the first major airport in this country since Dallas-Fort Worth in 1974. As Frank Courier reports, debate over this proposal is kicking up more noise than a jet landing.
With America's aviation system bursting at the seams, with twice as many planes and passengers as there were a decade ago, voters in Colorado decide today if Denver becomes the first big city in 14 years to build a new airport.
This is a very, very critical day for you, for your children, for this state.
With plans to turn 30,000 acres of wheat and pasture into a new generation airport northeast of town, many rural residents are protesting, worried about higher taxes, noise, and air pollution.
Vote no for a better deal May 17th.
These people won't listen because they're driven by the investors and the quick buck boys from down in Denver, and that's what they're after.
United 389 push advises frequency rated tax.
But it's more a matter of delays and safety. Denver's Stapleton Airport, the nation's fifth busiest, is often so congested a snowstorm shuts it down.
The runways are too close together to permit parallel landings in poor weather. So as a result, we have traffic backed up all the way to Chicago, all the way to the East Coast.
The proposed $3 billion 45-square-mile super hub would include 12 runways and more than 250 gates, bigger than Chicago and Atlanta's airports combined.
The FAA has played a key role in promoting the conversion of this farmland into America's largest airport, in a belief that the country needs new concrete more than it needs new controllers.
If we don't start building new airports, passengers are going to find that the delays of today are nothing compared to what they're going to face in the future, and the system, in my judgment, could become unsafe.
If suburban voters allow Denver to annex the property, supporters are promising 20,000 new jobs when it's completed in the mid-1990s, as Colorado takes the lead in what experts say is the best long-term solution to averting a crisis of convenience in the 21st century. Frank Courier, CBS News, Denver.
Time to get your gal to see the light. It takes time. It isn't always love at sight. From the first little glance till she's ready for romance. Remember, little man, it takes time. It takes time to make the coffee percolate. It takes time to get your gal to set the date. From the first moonlit walk till you get the baby talk.
Introducing the Elegance Collection from Citizen.
Yeah.
On July 26, 1983, the Gaynor family had a heart attack.
When John had his heart attack, really happened to all of us. Our whole family changed. One of those changes is our diet. Now it's low in saturated fats and cholesterol. Fleischmann's is a part of that diet. It has zero cholesterol, and another thing, it tastes terrific. I mean, I want to keep him healthy, but I want to keep him happy too.
Fleischmann's. It does your heart good.
See the colors of Puerto Rico, colors, colors everywhere. Puerto Rico, the shining star.
It's birth control for roaches.
Black Flag Roach Ender.
Other products kill, but survivors breed thousands more roaches. Roach Ender brand kills and sterilizes young survivors so they can't reproduce. Black Flag Roach Ender.
One of the 5 tankers hit by Iraqi warplanes in a weekend attack exploded today. It was off the coast of Iran. At least 9 crewmen of tugboats alongside are feared dead. U.S. warships dropped wreaths in the Persian Gulf on this, the first anniversary of the Iraqi attack on the frigate USS Stark. David Martin reports.
Aim! Fire!
Off the coast of Florida, which the Stark called home, families remembered the dead with flowers. 37 crewmen killed in the Persian Gulf when an Iraqi jet mistakenly launched its missiles at the U.S. Navy frigate 1 year ago today. In Mississippi, the Stark is still undergoing repairs from the 2 missiles which plowed into her port side.
I was lucky to get out once, barely, and so, but if I had to go back, I guess I'd have to.
There are twice as many U.S. warships in and around the Persian Gulf today than a year ago. And unlike the Stark, which failed to defend itself, they are now on a hair-trigger alert.
To avoid another case of mistaken identity, American ships now communicate with Iraqi warplanes which pass overhead in search of Iranian targets.
We did have radio contact with the Iraqi aircraft. You may recall that 1 year ago, a tragic affair with the USS Stark. We don't want to see a repeat of that kind of a tragedy.
The Stark was a dramatic reminder of the vulnerability of ships at sea. Ships assigned to the Persian Gulf are now being outfitted with improved firefighting equipment, part of a $60 million program to make them more survivable. But last month, when the frigate Samuel B. Roberts hit an Iranian mine, the ship was saved from sinking only by the heroics of its crew. It will cost about $100 million to repair the Stark, a bill which Iraq is supposed to pay. The U.S. already has submitted a claim for tens of millions of dollars in damages on behalf of the families of the dead. But it will be years, if ever, before the claims are settled.
It's not good for me, it's not good for the Navy, it's not good for anybody to dwell on it. Let it go, make the ship better than it was before, and we're going to do our job.
The Stark remains out of action, but on the day she returns to duty, the danger for American ships in the Persian Gulf is likely to be as great as on the day she was hit. David Martin, CBS News, The Pentagon.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Now's the time to buy a home because Century 21 offices are opening doors for you. It's our Century 21 Open House Weekend.
This weekend, we're opening doors all over the area to homes you can afford.
And Century 21 offices are selling more homes than anyone else.
Now's the time to buy a home. So come on in.
We're number 1 to wait for you. Century 21.
Call your local Century 21 broker for details of our Open House Weekend.
Because Citicorp understands the drive to succeed, to do more than just get by, we've become the nation's largest financial services company, already helping 1 in every 5 American families, with more student loans, more home mortgages, more MasterCard and Visa cards than any other company. Citicorp and Citibank, we'd like you to get to know us better. Citicorp, because Americans want to succeed, not just survive.
Mom sure make life easier. Mine did. Like another mom, Phillips Milk of Magnesia. Phillips Mom helps your body work naturally for easy overnight relief. Even has this convenient dosage cup. Nobody treats you better than Mom.
Do it yourself. Do it for yourself. Do yourself proud with Minwax and Wood.
Wood finish for beautiful color like no other, and Minwax polyurethane for fast drying protection that lasts.
Do yourself proud with Minwax and Wood.
I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Tomorrow we'll remember the great baseball moments of the 60s with Mickey Mantle.
And the Shirelles with the music of the 60s tomorrow on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.
Coming up